So in the same way, the way we have workflows, process builder, any automated business action, they will execute on change of records, right?
Yeah.
But these are like out of box solutions. At any point of time, if your business scenario is complex and which cannot be achievable by standard options from Salesforce, then we'll write a Salesforce triggers. Salesforce triggers is a custom solution to incorporate in the sense to implement your complex business scenarios. See again, your triggers and everything will be of different type. Let's see, we have language. Let's see. Apex. Oh, cool. So now, if you can understand this way, Apex triggers. Apex triggers. When these triggers will execute, any changes to your object, triggers will execute. Triggers will execute. What kind of changes you can see in object? What kind of changes to see in your object? What are the possible changes that we can see? Might be new record get created, right? New
Yeah.
records get created, and existing records might get edited, and records might be deleted. Records might be deleted, or records can be restored. What is restored? What is restored?
Same as undelete, no?
Yes, undelete. I mean, from where, how can you do it? If you delete any record in Salesforce, it will not do a hard delete. Like our computers do, it have a recycle bin. It have a recycle bin. It stores in a recycle bin. Okay? It stores in a recycle bin. Let's say if I go to my accounts, I'll say test, I delete it. I'm deleting this record. Are you sure do you want to this delete account? Yes. But this is not deleted completely. You have an option of undo and you can also have option of undo, right? Now you can select this record and you can do a restore. It's as same as your recycle bin we have in our computers. Okay? A trash folder. And this is not like a life cycle. This folder will have like some 90 days is a limit, I think. I'm not too sure on the limits, but I'll let you know. Is there any changes in the limits or not? But I'm not too sure, but it's kind of a like maximum of 3 months type of period. Okay. After that, the records will be auto deleted from the recycle bin. Clean. If I restore from here, then also the triggers will fail because you are changing. You are changing the object. See, you got into accounts. It got restored from recycle bin, isn't it? Then those are the events we have. Records can be restored. I mean, this can be restored from the deleted. Even this time, we'll fire an event. If the records are getting inserted for the first time, what are the possible events we have? We have before insert. We have before insert, and we also have after insert. Triggers will come up with the two events before insert and after insert. The same way for existing records get edited, then before update after update, before update and after update. What about delete? Let's say before delete, after delete, and here you have only after and delete, after and delete. So here you will be having only one event. So totally how many events we have in triggers now? Totally how many events we have in triggers now?
7.
Seven. What are the seven events?
Before insert, after insert, before update, after update. This one.
Yes. So where we have, I mean, totally four actions. For insert, edit, and delete, we have two events, both before and after. For account restoration, it means is the account can be undeleted. Technically, restore will be called as undelete in Salesforce. After undelete, okay?
Okay.
Clear? Any question on the events? What we have?
No.
No.
These events are defined by Salesforce, not by us. And next thing we need to remember called trigger context variables. Trigger context variables. What is trigger context variables? See, now we have events, right? Before insert, after insert. How you'll get to know what is before insert, what is before update? I mean, what is after insert? How you'll get to know, right? If I'm in a record, if I'm in record, I'm creating a new record. Let's imagine that I'm creating a new record. All user can do, right? He'll put the necessary information, data, and he just clicks save, isn't it? On click of save, the system will treat both before and after. System will treat before event one time and after event one time. Clear? I mean, what happens if you record user account? He navigates to account tab and clicks on new button. Updated all fields are provided filled. Fills the information, field information, click save, then validation rules, validation rules, then ideally what happened? Save point and then validations. If successful, then it will go to database. Here, how many times data is be stored? Here, one time is a save point, and this is the final commit. Okay, this is called stage, and this is called committed. Here, you will get your before triggers. Here, you will get before triggers. Once the before triggers is satisfied with the save point, then after save point, after triggers will execute. This is just in a blink of eye. Okay, after triggers. Okay. Any question here?
No.
Now tell me, if I'm inserting a new record, do I get a record variable at a before triggers at a save point? When record ID will be generated for any record? Before save or after save?
After save.
Right, then it's very clear that you have a record ID in after triggers, right? For insert.
Yes.
Before trigger will only validate your data. After trigger will have exact data what is there in system. But this is secondary. For now, To understand your trigger is running on before or your running is running on after, we have a events called, we have a context variable called trigger dot is before. Trigger dot is before. The return type for this is boolean. If it is true, that means that it is running on before. If it is false, it is running on after. Clear?
Okay.
For after also we have same concept. After, this is also returns boolean. So when I say boolean, again, if it is after trigger, then you will get after, right? Likewise, all the boolean variables we have called trigger dot is insert. You also need to know, right, what is insert, what is after. Trigger dot is update. Fifth one. Trigger dot is delete, and trigger dot is undelete. And these are to check whether the trigger is running on which event, right? If I say, hey, Gautam, write a condition to check trigger is running on after insert or not, how will you write a condition now?
Mm. Like on the trigger dot is after.
And after means it have two events, right? Both insert, update, delete, and undelete. Just is after means it will return only after trigger. Can be any event, right? If I say particularly, hey, write
Yeah.
a condition for after insert, then we'll say if, and I can say trigger dot is after first check, and trigger dot is insert. Now this condition will only satisfy when the both values are true, isn't it? When both values will be true on which case? Only after insert case, right? Any question here? Hello?
Yeah. Can you say that again?
I asked you to write
How to create it?
after insert condition. The trigger should execute on a
Yes.
after insert logic. Then how to write? Then all you need to set the two variables. After variable, you need to check whether it is after trigger or not. And then you need to check whether it is an insert trigger or not. Finally, what will be? These values will return true when the trigger is after, and here it will be true when the trigger is insert event. Then, because we
Mm.
are using unconditioned, both should be satisfied. If both are satisfied, that means which event it can be? After insert, right?
Yeah.
Clear? See, when is after will be true, Gautam. When trigger dot is
Mm.
after will be true.
When you create it.
When trigger is running on after event phase, right? After this save point.
Mm. After the save point.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. And when the insert will be
Yeah.
true, is insert will be true.
After it got saved.
No. When you are creating a record for a first time, right? If it is not, if it is a new
Mm.
record, then it will be true, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
What is my insert? Insert means creating a new record, right?
Yes.
This will be true on this one. So I asked you to write a condition just to check whether it is after insert. The event after
Okay.
insert. Because we have 8 events, right? 7 events, right? In out of seven
Yeah.
events, I am asking you to capture only one event. How to capture that? You can say trigger dot is after. It will give you a return saying that hey, this is the after trigger. And then you are saying, hey, this is because even in after you can see there are four conditions. insert, update, delete, and undelete. It can be any event for after, right? Then again you need to validate whether it is an insert or not.
Yeah.
Clear, Biharika?
Yeah.
Now it's all about events now. But we can't do anything with the events. What we needed, we need context data. Context data. What is context data? Trigger context data. So let's say if you are updating record or inserting record, anything, right? You should know the data within the in validation rule. All you will go to insert field, and if you keep, automatically those values will be picking up, right? For your comparison equal to this, so then throw error message, isn't it? How can I get that data in my trigger? So here we have key variables called trigger dot new, which will be a list of S object. What is S object? Salesforce objects.
SOQL.
No. S
Yeah.
objects means Salesforce object.
Yes.
It can be a standard or a custom. Okay.
Okay.
Trigger dot new map. So with the name itself, you'll get to know map of ID comma S object. The return type. Whenever I say this arrow mark, these are talking about a return types. Okay. And the third one we have trigger dot old. This is
Return
also
type in the sense.
which will return. If I call this method,
Okay.
what is the value? It's a list of a sub. These are methods, new map, old are methods. Okay. Trigger
Okay.
context variable. This will return like a list of objects.
Okay.
And we also have trigger dot old map of ID comma S object. So we have both trigger dot new map and trigger dot old map, right? Yes or
Yeah.
no? Now, if I talk about
Yes.
event versus context data. Let's say what is the first event we'll talk about? Before insert. Before insert. What it contains. What it contains. What kind of variable, data context variable, say before insert can have. Before insert will have an ID. Before insert will have an ID.
Mm,
Here before insert will have an ID before triggers.
No,
No.
no.
So what is
It's
the
a
key
Boolean
value for a
variable.
map? ID, right? What is the key value for map here? ID only, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
right.
Yeah.
when there is no ID, there is no point of talking this particular context data, isn't it? For before insert, the only value available is trigger dot new. Only one variable called trigger dot new. Okay. After insert, after insert. So in after insert, do we have a ID? After insert, do we have a ID?
Yes.
Yes. So trigger dot new, comma trigger dot new map. What about trigger dot old and trigger dot old map? Can I get my old values for the newly creating records?
No.
No. So only we are not using that stuff. Okay. So for before insert we have trigger dot new. For after insert we have both trigger dot new and trigger dot new map. Let's go with update. Before update. What kind of data we can have here? for updates. For update trigger, do we have for update event and before do we have a record ID or not for an update?
Yeah.
Yes, because this is an existing record. For existing record, do we have a old data or not?
Yes.
So here it will go trigger.new, trigger.new map, trigger.old and trigger.old map. All context variable data it can have. And again, it's as same for a after also. It as same as after also. What about delete now? What about before delete? What about before delete?
It will old and old mapping.
For a before delete, you will be having both new map and everything. But recommendation to use only delete old for a delete triggers. Okay. Recommendation to use old data for delete. Okay. Recommendations to use old data. You technically you have both new map and old map, but recommendation, my personal recommendation while writing a delete is old data, because if you are deleting a record, right, it means you are not changing any information, right? No field values has been changed and nothing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just deleting. So whenever
Yeah.
you are writing any trigger and delete, try to use a old events, old context data, not on new trigger.new and new map. Okay. This is my recommendation on a coding set. Else you will encounter some errors like dereference null object, record cannot be found, or insufficient privilege access, or record. There are some errors will gonna show you up. What about after delete? What kind of data we have here?
Restore.
No,
Old
no.
and old map.
After delete, this is not like an undelete. Trigger.old because this got deleted. When it got deleted, you don't have a new data. Only you trigger.old data. Trigger dot old map. And what about seventh? After undelete. After undelete. In after undelete as similar as after insert. After undelete is as similar as after insert, but here also you will be having ID. Trigger dot new map, which is similar to after insert event. After insert event. See, you have to remember this mapping. You have to remember this mapping. Scripts, folder, notes, triggers. You have to remember these information, this mapping at any point of time. This need to be by hearted. Clear?
Yeah.
What is the event and what are the available context data? And see, again, these things are straightforward. Whatever event you will see trigger dot is. If I say before insert, all you will say trigger dot is before and trigger dot is after, is insert. So it's a simple that you don't want to remember so much here. But here, these seven events will have different type of context variable combinations. So you have to remember for updates you don't want to remember. The reason behind it, you have everything. For delete and undelete, it's a reverse, and insert will be a new. It starts at a new and ends with a new. In middle, we'll be having a old data. Okay. And writing a delete trigger and undelete trigger, I mean, writing a event on delete and undelete is a rare cases. The maximum will write a events on insert and update. Okay. In Salesforce, 95% of triggers will be on before insert, I mean, before events. 95% of your logics will execute on before. Only 5% logics will execute on after. Clear? Any questions? Yes, if you can ask me, is there any difference between why we need to run on before, why we need to run on after? Yes, there are so many reasons why we have to do before and why we have to do it after. That we can discuss while we're doing a coding. For now, this is more important to remember. If any questions, please let me know.
No.
Anyone? Gautam?
Yeah, Deepak.
Any questions?
No.
Omsi?
No, Deepak. Once you explain trigger, I have one doubt. Then I will ask.
Okay. Nagesh?
No, Deepak, not yet.
Perfect. Now we'll see how to create a trigger. We'll see how to create a trigger. Let me create a trigger on account object. Control Shift P to get a command palette. SFDX create Apex trigger. Create Apex trigger. See, you can see. And what is the trigger name? I'll say account trigger. I'll mention it as a account trigger. And storing in a triggers location. And it always nice to have one event for one object. I mean, you cannot have a same object. Let's say I created one before insert event and a trigger for an account object. You cannot have another before insert for an account object newly. I mean, cannot be. You should not have duplicate events on same object. Okay. In the place of S object, you need to replace with your object name. Now, in our case, I'm trying to write my trigger on account. Right? How the trigger syntax looks like? Trigger is a keyword, and account trigger is a name that we provided. This is called trigger name. On which object and what are the events? Here the events will go. If I need another event, then I'll say after insert. Okay. Likewise, I can add my events constantly until my last event. Clear? Any question in this?
No.
And we don't write anything. We don't write any business logic inside triggers. That's not a best practice. The best practice is something like we'll create a trigger handler, nothing but your Apex class. We'll do all our business validation checks inside that methods and we'll call those methods at a particular event. Clear? So to do that, let me create one Apex class, SFDX Apex class account trigger handler. The trigger name I'm putting as account trigger handler. So this is my Apex class. Clear? Here I'll be defining my method. How to define a method? Public void before insert. I'll write my method here saying that before insert. Here before insert or anything you write, but this is particularly I'm writing for account trigger, so I'm mentioning like a before event. Okay, and before event, what kind of context data you have here? Trigger.new. What is trigger.new? Is list of S object. What is S object here? What is S object here? Which S object we are using? Account, right?
Account.
Yes. We are using account. See, whatever object you return on which object name, then that on object, then on name will be replaced with S object. Okay. Whatever you mention here after on, that will be your S object, and you have to replace all this context data to that object. Clear? Any question? This is new list, right? Because trigger.new we can pass, so I say that new list so that it would be easy for me to understand. This is my trigger. So what I'll do, I'll just deploy this to SourceArc. I'll just deploy this to SourceArc. What is my deploy? I'm saving it to Salesforce system. Okay, perfect. Now, then what I'll do, I'll just go back here and I'll say whether this is a static member or a non-static member. Whether this is a static or a non-static.
Static.
Non-static.
Non-static. And there is no keyword viharika to say static. You can be say anything as static by after seeing a static keyword. If the no static keyword, it means that is non-static. Now, how to call your non-static methods? How to call your non-static methods? By its object name, right?
Object name, yes.
I'm creating object for a class equal to, what is my object name here? What is my object name here?
Account.
My object name is account. Let me do one thing. Settings. It's not sounding good. Okay. The object name is a handler here for a class. Right, this is the object name, right, for a class, account handler object. Instance, right?
Yep.
Now I need to execute. I need to call my before event. Before insert. How can I get my before event insert logic here? And I also have another event called after insert also here, isn't it? Let's imagine, let me create one more method saying that public void after insert. In after insert, what kind of data we have? For you, both insert, both new and new map, right? It means both list and map.
Yeah.
It means both list and map. So let's say list of account, new list, control Z, new list, comma, map of ID, comma, account, new map. So you have, how many methods you have here?
Two.
It's not saving for me. Something bad. It's not saving. Control X. This Control X is not working. Retrieve. It got saved now. It took time to save. We have two methods, and here how many events we have? Two events, right? For before insert alone, I need to call my before insert method. For after insert, I need to call my after insert. So for that, first what we need to create? We need to create a boundaries for events, isn't it? That is very important, right? Here, how can we do that? By using a conditional statement if, and as I mentioned, we have trigger context variable saying that trigger dot is before and trigger dot is insert, right? Yes or no? And then because we can call the method by using object name handler dot before insert, and what is expecting as an argument? It's a list. How can we get that list? Is nothing but your trigger dot new, right? Any question? Any question here? The same way we can do for a after. Trigger dot is after and trigger dot is insert, and the same way we use handler dot after insert. Instead of new list, we need to say trigger dot new, and instead of new map, all we need to say trigger dot new map. Clear? Any question at a condition side?
No.
Viharika?
No.
No questions.
Yeah. And here what we can do. In before events, without you don't need to perform, you need not required to perform any DMLs. What is DMLs? Insert, update, delete, right?
Yeah.
Values for the current record. What is current record? The record, the one you are trying to create or user is trying to create. Validation rules will do only validation, but workflow will do only update. For triggers, it will do validation and updates together. Okay? It performs validations. Any question here? You don't need. I mean, you will be having questions, but again, for now, it's okay this way. And here it is in a reverse direction. You need to you need to perform. You need DMLs. You need DML to update values for the current record, and it validates. And it also validates the record field information. See, in before triggers, you don't want to perform any DMLs. You can directly change the values, but in after triggers, you need to perform DMLs. This is where the difference will come, because if you can see why we need to perform DMLs, by the time you get into after events, it is already in the database. If it is an already database, if you want to update database, what is the only way that we have? If it is already in database, then what is the only way that we have? We need to do a DML operations, right? If it is not in the database, then you don't need to perform DML. No point, right? The record itself is not there in the database. Then why you need to perform a DML, right? Clear? But again, remember this way: no DMLs required for before insert, before event triggers, and DMLs are required on a after event triggers. Remember this way: no DMLs on a before events. DMLs are required in after triggers. Clear? That's only DML I'm
Okay.
talking about, only current record. Current record in the sense the record which is existing in the list. The record which is existing in the list. Other than this record, if you have anything else, then you need to perform data. But at least for a trigger context data, you don't want to perform DMLs. What is trigger context data? The one you are getting list of accounts. Okay.